So is it possible to be a good tourist in Hawaii, or should all visitors just stay away? This question was proposed in a recent article in Hawaii Business Magazine, and wouldn't you know it, but I had the opportunity to be interviewed for this article. So I want to quickly go over the article, talk further about this narrative of stay away from Hawaii, and expound on the primary question: is it really possible to be a good tourist in Hawaii? Or is it a matter of if can, if no can, no can? Now, if you have the time and are interested in Hawaii-related topics, I highly recommend reading the article. I'll link it below. So in essence, this article primarily talks about how some visitors are questioning whether or not to visit Hawaii because of the mixed messaging they're receiving online about how some locals don't want tourists here. That despite the fact that tourism is Hawaii's major economic contributor, some people believe that visitors are taking away resources from locals, and perpetuating tourism somehow is perpetuating colonialism for Native Hawaiians and locals. Now, in an attempt to rectify the impact of tourism on locals and Native Hawaiians, the article points out that state leaders are incorporating regenerative tourism, which is a fancy term for reducing the environmental impact of tourists while also supporting residents economically within the tourism industry through education and job training. However, the implementation of this shift in tourism here, it's gonna take some time. I mean, some real Hawaii time. And until these changes become incorporated in the local tourism industry, if that ever happens, many visitors or prospective visitors still don't know whether to come to Hawaii, and they just don't know if it's the right thing to do or if they themselves can be good tourists. For the article, the author interviewed a variety of locals to provide a local perspective, and I'm thankful I had the opportunity to provide one, not the, but one local voice. And by the way, just as a side tangent, Leanne emailed me one day and asked if she could interview me because of a video I made on this channel in response to an opinion piece by a Princeton student. If you're interested in my reaction to that piece, you can check it out on my channel. But basically my response was critical of what was being said because I find that stay away from Hawaii narrative to be one that does not represent the majority of local people here. And it's one of those things that as a local person, I've never had to think about to explain to someone that it's okay to visit Hawaii, hence all the marketing material about Hawaii. But it's sometimes hard to know what's being said about you, both positive and negative, since Hawaii is relatively isolated and those discussions are often happening in different silos. And so again, as I stated in the article, if a person who is interested in coming to Hawaii chooses not to come to Hawaii because of something they heard online, I mean, that's fine for them, but I do hope that they come across one of my videos, maybe even this videos, or better yet, talk to a local person and ask them about tourism's impact on their everyday life. Because I think that you're gonna find if you talk to most locals here, that they're pretty reasonable. I mean, sure, you know, tourists, they cause more traffic and, you know, they crowd up certain places, make long line, but I mean, for the most part, we all know that without the tourism industry, many of the jobs and businesses will vanish, and Hawaii doesn't really have an economic safety net or backup plan. I mean, I thought we were gonna try and diversify ourselves here during the pandemic, but you know, that didn't really pan out, and so here we are, playing that same one-hit wonder, a profitable one-hit wonder I might add, but nevertheless, it's still the same. Now, the author of the article does follow up with the Princeton student who wrote that previous piece, and the student says that, quote, our voices are not a part of the conversation, meaning that Native Hawaiian voices aren't a part of the benefits of tourism to the economy. However, I just want to push back a little bit on that notion, and just mention, as the article does, that there has never been as much Native Hawaiian representation as there is right now among the state's tourism leadership. I mean, you're talking HTA, DBED, Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau, all headed by Native Hawaiians. And to me, that's a lot of representation. Now, obviously, these Native Hawaiian leaders cannot speak for every Native Hawaiian in the state or the world, but they all provide a native Hawaiian perspective in decisions that are being made for our state. And I hope that those who feel like native Hawaiian voices are being left out of the conversation, I hope that they can feel like, at least through these people, that's their voice. And the closing of the article encourages visitors to not just come here and take, but to find ways to be connected to Hawaii during their experience. Now, I like what the director of Malama Kokua had to say. He said, "This is not about telling people what to do. It's about reminding them that they are part of a larger fabric. You're not an individual when you're coming to Hawaii, and it's not just that you're coming to enjoy the land. You are a guest and steward of the land, and you are there to learn about the keepers of the land." Okay, now just want to clarify that last sentence, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but the rest of the statement I definitely support. The message to visitors, to me, needs to be very clear. And it's not about telling people what to do, but letting them know that when they come to Hawaii, when they come here, they are part of something more than just a tourist destination with nice beaches, good weather, and excellent food. I mean, people live here. Americans live here. A culture lives here. So have a great time while you're here, but just be mindful of those things. And if a visitor does that, to me, it shows respect. And that's ultimately what I think the root of this whole problem, this whole discussion, this whole conflict comes down to, is that people want to feel respected. They want respect. Not just local people in Hawaii, everybody wants respect. And if you can demonstrate respect while you're in Hawaii, which frankly isn't that difficult to do, I think that you'd find that most people are okay with the impacts of the tourists and tourism here in general. And so to answer the question, is it possible to be a good tourist in Hawaii? Well, yes, I believe it's possible. So if you like, come. However, I do want to clarify my yes, it's possible response. Okay, first, if you decide to stay away from Hawaii because you feel like you're adding to the problems of local people or Hawaii, just know that problems will continue in Hawaii, probably the same problems, whether you come here or not. In fact, if too many people decide not to come Hawaii, that could lead to even more problems than we currently have, especially economically for locals. And also, you not coming because you might feel guilty for past historical actions or colonialism that you're probably not even tied to. I mean, again, that's your right if you want to feel bad, but I personally don't see how you not coming is going to make up for anything that did happen in the past. Second, the term good is highly subjective, as what's good to someone may not necessarily be what's good enough for somebody else. So I'm gonna try my best to define what I think a good tourist is, as I would think most locals would find reasonable. So a good tourist to me, and I think most people, is someone who comes to Hawaii with a respectful attitude for the people and for the environment. Someone who stays at a hotel or at least a legal accommodations. Someone who smiles and has a great time while following the rules and laws. Someone who learns about the culture a little. I mean, you don't have to get a degree in Native Hawaiian studies or anything, but just know that the Hawaiian culture existed and still exists today, and that the local culture that you're probably experiencing today, at least in modern times, is something entirely unique and different. And go back home and tell your friends about your experience. To me, that's a good tourist. And I believe most tourists are good tourists, just as most people are good people. Not perfect people, but good people. Not perfect tourists, but good tourists. And third, for those who hold potential visitors to Hawaii to this high standard, such as they have to do certain activities, or they have to, and I mean they have to learn about Native Hawaiian culture, or else they have no business coming here. For those people, I hope that they themselves are willing to be held to such high standards when they go on vacation to other places. And I'm not talking about, if you like come Hawaii, you gotta go check out Bishop Museum or Polynesian Cultural Center. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you like come Hawaii? Well, you better learn the history of Hawaii and the controversial stuff that would happen, because they're gonna be on pop quiz at the end of your vacation, or you're not going home. Like that kind of attitude to me is a little bit a little bit too much. So, to those people who would hold others to that standard, I would just ask, when you go Vegas, when you go California, when you go Japan, do you learn about the local cultures there? How much about the local cultures do you actually learn? And how warm would you feel if the locals in those places tried to guilt you or tell you to do certain things that you may not be interested in? To me, there's something just to think about, because if we're gonna hold others to certain standards, I think we should also expect to be held to those standards, just to see how the shoe fits. Because let me tell you, when I go on vacation, sure, I appreciate the culture of where I'm going, but I'm mostly going because I want to experience things that I want to experience. And I don't want the destination telling me that I have to do stuff or else I'm gonna be guilty of, I don't know what. I think people can be respectful of a place and still choose what they want to do on a vacation without being made to feel guilty for something that they didn't do. So to close, I really enjoyed the article, and I think it added a valuable insight to this conversation that is often misrepresented online. And frankly, Hawaii can't afford to not have people come, as we learned during the pandemic. I mean, as nice as it was to not have tourists here at times, I mean, it was nice with no traffic and the beaches were empty. Did we just forget that a lot of people struggled? I do believe that there are ways to be a good tourist, as I mentioned before. And for the most part, I think most tourists who come here are good tourists. They're doing what I probably would be doing if I were vacationing in another part of the world. They come here, they spend money, they learn a little bit about Hawaii, and they enjoy themselves. And I don't believe that telling people to stay away from Hawaii is the solution to Hawaii's problems. If so, what will replace that? I'm very, very curious. I also believe that Native Hawaiians do have a voice in state tourism leadership, and if Native Hawaiians, or locals for that matter, don't like how tourism is being handled in Hawaii, speak up to government officials, pay attention to legislation, and vote. I can't stop people from putting out what I feel is an unwelcoming message to not visit Hawaii. I really don't understand that, but I cannot stop that, right? It's their right to voice their opinion, just like it's my right to voice my opinion. I just hope that I'm adding to that discussion that not all local people feel that way. And I think, frankly, most local people don't feel that way. And the ironic thing is that if you're the type of person even thinking about the negative impact that you may have on locals or Native Hawaiians during your vacation, chances are you're probably one of the good tourists that we want to come here. So thanks for watching, and aloha.